dance for joy or lust or anger.
So welcome to Sensible Secondhand Classics, and the series where we look at nostalgic old cars that between 15 and, well, any age years old, and we look at them in a sensible and practical manner. This is a 1972 Vauxhall Viva HC, and it's a little bit temperamental today. So the Viva was introduced in 1963, and a little bit like the Hillman M, Vauxhall had a brand new factory to make this at Ellesmere Port in Cheshire. In fact, if you go to the sort of Chester area near Ellesmere Port today, you'll see lots and lots and lots of Vauxhalls still around, because they're still making the Astra up there. The HA Viva, the original model, was made until '66, and then the HB came out, which was sort of a very different type of car. Even the whole underneath of it was completely different. But this HC, which was launched in 1970, is similar underneath to the HB in many ways. Because this is a 1972 car, we have the very famous 1256cc overhead valve engine, which is derived from the earlier 1057 and 1159cc units that powered these cars, in this case generating about 58 horsepower. The 1159s that were sort of like a carryover from the HB Vivas, in both 49 horsepower and, in the case of the SL90, 60 horsepower guises, were replaced in late 71 by this single 1256cc engine that went into the Chevettes, and also the crazy Bedford Beagles and Bedford HA vans that continued to have the original design of the Viva all the way into the 1980s. Also used in the Viva were some slant 4 engines, and we tried a slant 4 engine in the Chevette HSR that I drove back in April 2022. There were 1.6 and 2 litre versions generating either 80 or 104 horsepower. Later on, the slant 4 engines, I think in about 1972, got a power upgrade because the capacity was enlarged to 1.8 and 2.3 litres. From what I understand, the 1.8 originally developed at 77 horsepower, then later up to 88 horsepower, and the 2.3s developed 112 horsepower. I've also seen a figure of 112 for 2 litres as well, so I don't really understand that. Sometimes when you're looking at these older cars, it is difficult to find completely accurate information. So the HC Viva is fundamentally quite similar underneath to the HB Viva. Surprisingly, the original Viva VHA is very different underneath from the later ones. The styling of this, probably in 1970 when this was released, looked very, very contemporary. It looks like a sort of shrunken American Chevrolet from the late 60s, doesn't it? Sort of Coke bottle waistline that was very fashionable at the time from the HB Viva has been replaced with just total kind of smoothness. By 79, when these finished production, the car would have looked and felt very, very dated though. In 1978, there was a publicity film for Vauxhall made, and Patrick McNee, I don't know why he was in the Vauxhall advert, because he was promoting British Leyland products in New Avengers just the year before. He actually called the Vivas the perennial Vivas, and by that stage they'd sort of been replaced with the Cavalier above them and the Chevette below. So yeah, they just kind of sold because people kept buying them, I think. Although by the time the Vauxhall Astra came out in 1980, that was well, nothing short of revolutionary in comparison with this. But we'll find out why 3 of my family members used to own these cars by taking a look at the inside. Now this is a very, very basic Viva. It's not even got a trim level. It's just a 1256cc Viva. This hasn't even got a brake servo or disc brakes. It's all round drum brakes because it's quite an early one. And I don't think that seat is going to adjust at all. I'm not sure it even sort of goes forward and back. I think that's just what you get. So got the energy absorbing steering wheel. I'm sure that will absorb all the energy in all possible accidents you could ever have. Choke lever's just there. So I'll focus right. I've only got one stop, that's the indicators there. Typical kind of older British car. Strip Speedo. Oh yes. Now these only kind of lasted a few years before they came back in the poverty spec Viva E in 1975. But by that stage the Viva E actually had disc brakes and a brake servo. So there we go. The highest spec models at this time, such as the Viva SL 90, although it didn't have 90 horsepower actually, it actually only had about 60, which was, I think, discontinued sort of late 71. Those would have had brake servos and things in them and disc brakes. So we've got a very interesting accelerator pedal here. Kind of like a sort of, I think they call it organ pedal. Oh gosh, if my camera will focus properly, that'd be better, but there we go, yep, the organ pedal there. What's this down here? That's very interesting. Not sure what that does, viewers. We don't have any hazard lights in this car. I think the later Vivas would have them just there. We don't have any. I don't think you needed them. There's the heater controls again. Very, very, very simple. My autofocus, well, that's better. Dear me. Right, autofocus. There's the heater controls. Ashtrays up there. No cigarette lighter. Actually got a glove box. If it actually will open. I'm going to get 2 hands on that, aren't I? Just 2 vents, libel vents either side of the dash. And the recording equipment is in here. So if you think you could do a better job of making this video, then you can come and drive this car at the Great British Car Journey and make your own video and make it better. 4-speed gearbox. I think this is similar to the Chevette gearbox, so it's not like the Chevette HSR gearbox I would have used when I drove that car back in April 2022. But yeah, 4-speed manual. A majority of these Vivas would have come with that. What's this little toggle here? Mystery toggle thing. No door pockets, just a window winder and a thing to pull the door closed and the door release. That is it. Right, let me just have a second so I can open this glove box. I'm afraid, viewers, we're never going to know if I can get my secret mission documents in there because I cannot open it at all. Never mind. We'll see if we can get in the back and provide some entertainment for Mr. Manning from the Matty's Cars channel. Okay, the most limited amount of seat adjustment I've ever seen in my life. So we have to hold this up whilst I get in the back. Actually, that's quite easy. Sorry, Mr. Manning. No Roger Moore noises from Me to a Kill for you. That's alright, I suppose, in here. I can just spray my legs. It's not the most spacious, but there's loads of headroom. My gosh, it's like a London taxi. There's loads of headroom in here. It's very, very, very easy to see out. I mean, that's one thing I will say about this. But we've got the dreaded fixed seatbelts. Ah! Viewers, I can't even begin to tell you my disdain for fixed seatbelts. Oh. Never mind. Yeah, it's comfortable in here. I just wish the legroom's a bit better. It's just rubbish considering how much headroom there is. Got a little sort of shelf on the back for putting a tissue box on and things like that. But there's really nothing else to talk about because there's nothing else in here. Let's go and have a look in the boot. Annoyingly, you need the key to get in the boot, but never mind, it's in. This car is in absolutely amazing condition. I believe it's not even restored. This is just how it is, which is remarkable considering they let people like me loose driving these. Spare wheel just lives just there. That filler neck looks very, very vulnerable. You don't want to have any form of side impact from there, because it's not going to go well for you. We're sort of thinking Ford Pinto kind of a big fiery crash, but just don't worry, you've got the energy absorbing steering wheel, so it'll all be fine. Very sort of neat styling. I mean, it looks very, very kind of sort of retro and period now, but this would have looked so dated, I'm sure, by 79. But it just looks sort of charming now, doesn't it? I think on some of the upper trims, this car would have had an internal bonnet release on the left-hand side, but this actually just has one here. So anybody who wants to seal one of these and has you know, knowledge of wiring can just take your Viva in the night. So here is the 1256cc engine that was also used in the Chevette, in this case generating 58 horsepower. It's absolutely lost in here. I mean, you can see everything. I mean, you can see the steering rack gaiters in here as well. It's absolutely crazy. It's probably very, very easy to work on this. There's a nice new alternator down there. But again, it's amazing, just considering how these used to rust. It's just amazing. I don't know how easy it is to still get bits of these cars. They're pretty rare now. You don't see an awful lot even at car shows, really, these HT Vivas. But you also notice here we haven't got any brake servo. So I heard that one of the people who drove this at the experience here at Great British Car Journey, they found the brakes so bad that they actually went and sort of sorted them out a bit. So I'm hoping that I'm not terrified by them. If you can, get yourself a Viva HC with a brake servo and front disc, it would be better for you. Can't tell from here whether this was made at Luton or Ellesmere Port. They were made in both places, actually. Ellesmere Port was the factory constructed in 1963 to make the HAV originally, but they also had production at Luton as well, because it was quite a popular car back in the day. Right, I think it's time to go for another drive. So the trim levels available on an HC Viva were just a base Viva like this. This car has no trim level. The SL, and then the sort of more luxurious versions were the L and the GLS, which is towards the end. Again, about 72, 73, the slant 4 versions of the Viva were actually rebadged as the Vauxhall Magnum. Still with a sort of similar styling, but with the sort of quad headlamps as opposed to twin headlamps of this car. And then there's the Forenza, which was like a sort of coupe version of it. This is a saloon. You could get a 2 or 4 door saloon Viva. The Forenza had a sort of more kind of curvy back end to this in terms of the roofline, and also there was the crazy sport hatch, which is a sort of a droop snoop front end and sort of like a Viva Estate back end, which was fascinating. That the droop snoop Forenza was a sort of like a sporting version, basically a sort of predecessor to things like the Chevette HSR. Same sort of engine and a Getrag 5-speed dogleg gearbox. This only has a 4-speed manual in it. The majority of Vivas did. You could get an automatic, but those are very, very rare. Certainly to drive, this rolls all over the place. It rolls like a ship, but then you'd expect that from a kind of typical family car like this. Not very sophisticated. It does feel, as Ian Seabrook said when he's driven 2 of these actually on his channel, it does feel like a 60s car as opposed to a 70s car. The engine's willing enough, pulls okay. I remember this engine from the Chevettes that so my child on his own when I was younger, same engine. And yeah, gearbox is alright. It's probably quite good in this 38,000 mile car. Things I remember sort of HC Vivas from were things like Jason King, that old series of Peter Wingard from the early 70s. They actually had a Viva HC and that, I think it was an SL. And they used to crop up in all kinds of scenes wearing things like Hong Kong number plates and things like that. Seems like a very similar car to me to like a Mark 1 or Mark 2 Escort, you know, with a sort of kind of bit of a wallowy feeling to it. I don't know what the sort of larger engine versions are like to drive. I mean, you know these were by far most popular. Its trip speedometer is interesting as well. But the steering's it's okay. It's not the sharpest steering I've ever used. It's not like an ADO 16, which I've driven an example of today, 1300 GT. But it's okay. It just reminds me of actually how far cars have come on. And whoop, lots and lots of body roll at 15 miles an hour around this roundabout. Much cars have come on, and how much of an upgrade the Mark 1 Astra was when it was launched in 1980 and took the place of the Viva at Ellesmere Port. And I've driven one of those actually here at Great British Car Journey, where you can come and drive this too if you want to. So viewers, this fascinating HC Viva with no carpeting and no trim level. Is this something you should consider as a sensible second-hand classic with your budget between £1,000 and £5,000? Well, I mean, I don't see why not. The biggest problem with one of these is trying to find one. I mean, trying to find bits of this would be very hard. There's just not many around, despite being a very popular car back in the day. To be honest, there are other cars, I think, from this era that I probably prefer. I might even prefer an Allegro to this, to be honest, actually. I quite enjoy driving those. This feels like a very, very old car, and if you took somebody who was a Viva owner and put them in a Vauxhall showroom in 1980 when the Mark 1 Astra came out and said, this is the new car, they'd just be absolutely bowled over by that. It's not a bad car. I don't think I'm quite sort of as strongly against this car as Ian Seabrook was maybe in his first video. He made the HC Viva, he's done 2 of them. But considering my family have owned 3 of these, one broke down on my parents' honeymoon, one broke down in the Lake District, one of my uncles had it, and then as far as I know my grandfather's one that he had, that was okay. I do feel a certain sense of affinity with this, and I'm sure if I you know, had one with better brakes and maybe a little bit more power, I'd feel a bit more at home. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching this episode of Sensible Secondhand Classics. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more nostalgic but reasonably priced motoring.
Every day with blue skies.